Welcome back to the Baseball Blue Book podcast. My name is Eric Webenaw, the president of the Baseball Blue Book, and today we are headed all the way out west and with Matt Hollod, Northwest Nazarene University. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing
Hey,
this.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And before we begin, I want to make sure to encourage everyone to subscribe to our channel. You can get this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify is a big one, and then we're also on YouTube. Check us out on Twitter. We're BSBL Blue Book, and bringing a whole lot of great interviews with coaches across the country. I'm pumped with this one because I think it's my first one out west, and so I've been stuck kind of in the Northeast. Made a little stint down in the South, but then found out Coach Hollod has actually got a few connections out Northeast. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Why don't you go ahead and do a quick introduction? But today we're going to talk about the journey, your baseball journey, and then get into the program and ask some questions about the recruiting and what you guys are looking for.
Yeah, I'm currently the associate head coach at Northwest Nazarene University. We're located right outside of Boise, Idaho. Been here, I think this is our fifth year now. A Division II school, and we've had some success recently. I mean, we've went to regionals the last 2 years, conference champions the last 2 years, and 2 years ago, 2021, we made a trip to the World Series and finished sixth in the country that year. And yeah, this is where I've been the last 5 years, and I love it here. Before that, I've been coaching for 20 years, and I've been in a few different stops.
Why don't you go ahead and start with kind of the first place that you stopped? You had shared a little bit with me before, kind of the journey that you've taken, kind of back and forth from the coasts, and had a few people that we both know, and I had a few of your other coaches on the programs. So where did it start? Coming out of high school, and then kind of what steps did you have to take to get to where you are today?
Yeah, so coming out of high school, I ended up choosing and getting recruited to University of Washington. So I went to University of Washington. I was there for 3 years. After 3 years, I got recruited to pitch there. I ended up playing the outfield, which was great, but after 3 years, and I redshirted my first year, so I had 2 years eligibility left, and really wanted an opportunity to do both and see what would happen. And so I transferred to University of Portland, a little bit smaller D1 in the West Coast Conference, and there I was able to pitch and hit, finish out my career. And when I was done at University of Portland, I went back up to University of Washington to graduate, to complete my degree. When I was done with that, I got right into coaching. University of Portland, from playing there, they offered me a job to help out there on staff. So I was there for 2 years as a volunteer, and then 3 years I went full time. So I was there for 5 years. From there, I made a stop at Willamette University and then Southern Utah University. They dropped their program. From there, I got a head coaching job in the Northwoods League. I was out there for 4 or 5 years. From there, I went to Pennsylvania at DeSales University. I was there for a couple of years, and then got my first head coaching job at Wilkes University. I was there for 3. And then I got to a point where, just with family, it was different. It got to the point where, I was getting married, and I wanted to be a little bit closer to family. So we moved back west and kind of essentially started over. Went to Cal State Northridge for a year. From there, went to Riverside RCC for 2 years. And then I was about ready to get out of baseball. I was telling you earlier, I've not all these moves were really by choice. I mean, I would love to stay in one spot for longer, but in coaching for 20 years, I think 8 of those 20 years I made under $10,000 a year, and 5 of those 8 years I made nothing. So some of these moves were just like, hey, how can I live? How can I make it work? And then I was almost getting ready to get out of baseball at RCC. I could afford to do it for a couple of years, and we were about ready to move to Colorado, get closer to family there. And then Joe Schaefer came from Point Loma. He got hired at Northwest Nazarene, and he reached out, and I've been here ever since. And it was a blessing, because this place has been awesome and wonderful people to work with, and they've been very supportive, and just the people that I work alongside have been great. The administration cares, which can't be said about all the programs across the country, and but they care about you, and they want your program to have success. And so it's been great, but yeah, I've been to, I don't know what I named off of, if that was 6 or 7 different places. It's been a grind at times, but looking back, I wouldn't do it any other way, because I've learned so much from different coaches and different programs and different ideas and opinions. And there's been a lot of diversity in there. And I think it's made me a better coach.
You talked about, almost getting out of the game. Was that primarily financial, or did you get to a point that maybe you felt like it wasn't necessarily what you wanted to do anymore, or was it strictly financial?
It was strictly financial. I mean, and I could have had those thoughts multiple times in years prior. But I was like, no, I just love the game of baseball. So it was never about the love of baseball. It was for financial reasons. And then obviously at that time I had gotten married and we had our first child. So things were much different than what it was 5-10 years before that, when I was single and could afford to go somewhere and live above a bar and just make it work.
No, absolutely. I think we've all gone through that, and chasing your passion is a lot of times there's a lot of sacrifice that needs to be taken in order to do that. You talked about getting to Northwest Nazarene. You guys have had a really great few years. I mean, I was looking at the records. Talk about kind of what you've taken from all of those other programs, and one of those that you mentioned was DeSales with Tim Nyman. We talked about that before. I've had him on actually a couple times. Not necessarily from him, but all of these other programs and the people that you've kind of worked under. What were some of the specific things that you as a coach has brought to Nazarene?
Well, I think just from learning from so many guys, and you can learn from any situation, right? I've been under, and I've worked with some really great people, who have some really good baseball minds as well. And Tim is one of them. He's been around for a long time. He started that program out from the ground. Sorry, Tim, to say that you've been around for a long time, but you have, and you've done a hell of a job. But to learn from him, and even my stops at my first coaching stint at University of Portland, to be with a guy who was a really good fundraiser and really good person, to be with Tim, to be with Coach Greg Moore at Cal State Northridge, which taught me some things about pitching that I still have with me today, that I think has helped develop a successful pitching program, and to learn from him, and to learn from Rudy down at RCC, different things. And everybody has their own different style, and when I was younger, I remember talking to another coach, and it used to be maybe back in the day that you start in a program and you put in your time, and you stay there and you work your way up in that program. And there's certainly value to that, and there's nothing wrong with that, and sometimes I wish maybe that would have happened in my career, and stay in one spot, which would be good. But the fact that I've been able to move around to different places and learn from different coaches, and bring a lot of different, a lot of diversity into my coaching style, I think has benefited me and made me a better coach. So I think it's been great. Now at this point in my life, I love it here, and I want to be in a more stable position. When I was younger and you're moving around, but now it's like, no, I want to be in a spot and stay there.
Talk about kind of the role of an associate head coach versus a head coach, and kind of the difference between what you're doing today. Because you talked about, even your bio talks about the fundraising you've done, and you've tripled the number, the amount of fundraising at one school, but you've also had quite the success in the pitching side. So as you've kind of gone through each one of these areas, what is the associate head coach kind of responsible for, and what is your kind of your day-to-day today with at Nazarene?
Well, as associate head coach for this example, I mean, I think obviously that title it comes with some experience and helps out that individual. Maybe if there's a job for me in the future, it shows that there's some experience along with that. So for here, I think Joe and I have a really great relationship, and associate head coach means that basically I can take on any task that he's doing if he needs someone to step in. We're always talking in-game management about different things, even on the offensive side and pitching side of it. But then outside of the baseball field, I mean, like fundraising and camps, I'm in charge of a lot of that stuff. And, if he's gone one day and there's a meeting and we have to meet with someone on campus, I can go and do it. And I think the associate head coach, you kind of have an idea and a grasp on many things in the program, and not just one. It's not just recruiting. It's not just pitching or hitting. It's basically everything. And from my experience of coaching for 20 years and being a head coach and being an assistant and being a recruiting coordinator and working with hitters earlier in my career and pitchers now, like, I'm very diverse and have experience in just about every area of the game. I'm really the only area that I don't have a whole lot of experience in, and would have someone else feel more comfortable having someone else do it, is really with the catching, and I still get some of that experience with obviously working with pitchers and the pitcher catcher relationship. It has to be strong. And so I'm talking to catchers about that. But in terms of like just the fundamentals and the drills and the mechanics and stuff like that, that's really the only area where I don't have a whole lot of experience in.
Of your 20 years, and it blows me away. You've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm sure you think about that quite a bit. If you say 20 years, right? You're like, how fast did it go, right? Where did time go? What was your favorite stop? Kind of where you had really the best experience, and where was the most challenging experience as you went through this journey of yours?
My favorite stop has to be where I'm at currently. And it's for multiple reasons. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, the people around you and working with Joe. Joe and I have a really strong relationship, and I feel like I could tell him anything and he could tell me anything, and we're fine with it, and we can talk about it. He trusts me, I trust him. But not only the relationship with Joe and I, but the relationship with the people in the administration and the athletic department who support us and care about our success, the success that we've had here, which is probably some of the more successful I've been in my career in terms of a program as a coach. Challenging as a coach, I would kind of break it down to, I think the biggest challenge has been, when I've been in colder weather climates, on the recruiting side of it, it's not easy, so recruiting can be a challenge when you're even here in Idaho or in Oregon or Washington, compared to like if you're coaching at, it's, down south in a warm climate, I got to assume that might be a little bit easier to recruit, I also have to say that my first few years of coaching, because wanting to be a coach when you're younger, but then getting those first few years in and having the coach, having Chris Sperry at University of Portland give me that first opportunity, that was kind of special, because it was the first few years, and it was, wow, you're getting your feet wet and you're learning fast, and you think everything when you're that young. And like you look back, and I'm like, a lot of things with the baseball part of it, like I'm similar in my beliefs and things with baseball and my teachings, but just maybe the way you interact with players and you take care of them and you talk to them and help them out. And I've grown so much as a coach from 20 years ago at University of Portland till now, but I still cherish those first few years of getting my first opportunity.
That's really good. It kind of leads into the next question of really what from a coaching perspective, what do you love the most about being a coach, and what's the thing that's been the hardest to really to handle and that you have to work on each day?
I love that baseball's like a game of chess to me, and the strategy of in-game decisions. I love that. I've always loved it as a manager. I love it with, working with pitchers now, and, like when to take guys out, the matchups, and I love that part of it. I also love when you're working with players and you see them come into your program as a freshman, and let's say, I mean, we all have these examples where they come in as a freshman and they're throwing 79 to 82 miles an hour, and they struggle with command. They only have 2 pitches, and then just the time that you put in with that player, over the years, and I've seen it a lot here, and it's like a guy gets to his junior year, that same guy who's throwing 79 to 82 with 1 pitch, he's throwing 86 to 87, 88 with multiple pitches. He has better command, he has success, and to see that player have success and have a smile on his face after he started his career and he pitched like an inning and a third and gave up about 12 runs, like that is that's pretty cool to witness that. And most of these guys don't go on to play professional baseball at this level. I mean, let's be honest, even most of the guys at the Division I level don't play professionally, so it's moments like that you cherish and that means something. And it's nice to see that smile on their face when it turns around for them.
That's great. You also have some experience at the summer leagues with the Coastal League as well as Northwood. Talk about kind of the difference between coaching the summer league and the players that come to those leagues versus what you do kind of the D2 and the places that you've been in from the collegiate perspective.
Well, it is different, and depending on what league you're coaching in the summer, when I was in the Northwoods League, I feel like a lot of places that I coached at, that when I was in the Northwoods League, those players were better than a lot of the players. Talent level was a little bit better than where I coached at. It's a very good league, especially offensively. One of the differences is obviously in a university setting. I mean, you have much more time with them outside the baseball field, and you can put in time with them and in the cages or in the film room or in your office, and you have those relationships that are outside of the game. In the Northwoods League and summer baseball, I would imagine it's a lot like pro ball. It's every day, and the routine was every day before games. We would go in for early work and do a lot of reps. And I was never a coach in summer that would try to change anything with guys, because these guys are coming from different programs, right? And they're not my players, so my philosophy in summer ball was really just to give them as many reps as possible. So a lot of early work. And then if there was a kid struggling and, he wanted help with something, if there was any suggestions I had, there's a few times where I would call his coach and be like, hey, what do you think about this? But there is a difference, the talent can be a little bit better. I mean, some of these leagues, you're taking the better players from all different schools and you're putting them into one roster and one team. And then, like the fact that it's just day to day and the travel and traveling on bus and, how we eat before the games and after and the early work. I mean, it's like professional baseball, and I loved it in that aspect. It was, I love being in a university setting, but it's also great knowing that it's just baseball every day.
No, that's good. That's good. Hey, before we move into the next portion of the episode, just want to encourage everyone to subscribe to the channel. We're doing episodes all across the country now. A lot of fun. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We are with Matt Hollod, the associate head coach at Northwest Nazarene up in beautiful Boise, Idaho. And we're going to talk about Boise. We're going to talk about Nazarene University, what makes the program special, and a few other things. Just kind of your feelings about the recruits, what you're doing to find people. So why don't we start with just highlighting the university? What makes besides the great place of Boise? I mean, you guys are getting a whole lot of people moving to that area, that part of the country, and there's reasons why. So go ahead and share with that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area. It's one of the fastest growing populations in the country. If you like the outdoors, hunting, fishing, biking, riding, snowboarding, like it's the place to be. It's awesome. It's beautiful. As a university, I mean, I think the people here are outstanding. They're very welcoming, very helpful. It's a smaller university, 1,200 undergraduates. The administration, like I said, from a university standpoint, really cares about our success on the field, and they're very supportive. Um, and then we have a very good engineering and business program, very, very good. And then also the other thing I want to highlight is nowadays with the portal and coming out of COVID, there's a lot of guys that go on the portal that have 1 year left, or they're looking for that grad program. And we have a great business analytics program that is just a 1 year program that's very affordable. It's only like $8,400 for a graduate
Wow.
program. So it could be a good fit. And especially if you're from somewhere that's not like Idaho or Boise, very outdoorsy, sometimes it's good to experience new things and get out and try that, So, I mean, it's the university is great. The area is great. And I would encourage, athletes to seriously look into it, because there's, we're a Division II school. We've had some success recently. I mean, like 5 years ago, we took over a program that was last or second last in conference. And, within 2 years, we went to the World Series. We've been to 2 consecutive regionals. We won 1 regional. We've won 2 consecutive conference tournaments. We've had success on the field. It's a great spot, and we have people here that are going to care about you.
That's awesome. Is it campus life? Is it dorms? People live? Is it kind of you said 1,200 undergrads? So is it a kind of a closed campus type environment, or do people live off campus? What is that like from just a student life perspective?
Yeah, we have both. We have students who live on campus, and typically they live on campus the first 2 to 3 years, or till they're 21. Older transfer guys that we have coming in, they'll typically live off campus. Once students live on campus for those 2-3 years, they can stay on campus or they can move off. And on our baseball team, we have probably a third of our roster lives off campus, and off campus housing is within 5 to 10 minutes. It's all relatively pretty close, and on campus housing is good. And then we have athletes who stay on there all 4 years, or at least the majority of them. So yeah, we have both, and
that's good. Awesome. From Nazarene perspective, as well as kind of overall, what do you find the biggest challenge in finding good recruits?
Well, I think since coming up to Idaho and being at Northwest Nazarene, I think a lot of times when I call a kid, they're like, "Where's Idaho?" I thought you said Iowa. No, I said no, Idaho. And then they don't know what's up in Idaho. They have no idea about Idaho. And then a lot of times when the kids come here, there's like, wow, they had no idea. And one thing that stood out to me when before I came here. And growing up in Washington, I had only been over to Idaho like one time, and then I got this job. But it's sunny up here just as many days as it is in San Diego, California. Like, it's a drier climate and it's sunny a lot. So it's a beautiful place. But yeah, the first initial reaction from recruits when I'll call them, we like, "Oh no, I've never been there. I don't know about your school. I don't. Where's Idaho?"
At least they don't say, "What is that, a state?"
Yeah.
No, I grew up in Iowa, so people confuse Iowa and Idaho all the time with me. They're like, "Yeah," they say potatoes. I'm like, "No, corn." Right? We're Iowa's corn, Idaho's potatoes. That's great. What are you seeing players doing wrong in their in how they're going at the recruiting process?
Well, I think one thing that stands out to me is I think too many kids spend way too much of their parents' money on going to way too many showcases. And I don't think they need to go to that many. I have a nephew. My sister has a boy at Washington State University right now playing, and she asked me that a few years ago when he was younger. And my advice was like, first of all, I don't think you need to be doing it when you're a freshman in high school. If you're really good as a freshman in high school, sophomore in high school, those D1s that are recruiting that early now, they're going to know about you. I think you could start and you could just pick maybe a showcase 1 or 2 a year, starting your sophomore year, junior year. And then obviously if there's schools that you are very interested in and attending, If you have a connection to that school, whatever school that is, then I would encourage you to, visit that school and go to maybe one of their camps, but I feel bad nowadays for some of these parents that are forking out so many dollars on their kids to go to all these showcases. And, really it's like you can be noticed if you just cut that in half or, 2/3, and you're still going to be noticed, um, if you're good enough. And that's the thing too. Like if you really want to play college baseball, we talk about, are you good enough? Like there's so many different levels, and there's so many different schools that could be a right fit for you. And I know there's a lot of the whole D1 or bust, and mentality, and I think, I would, if you get recruited by a Division I school and you get a good scholarship opportunity, it's going to be hard to turn that down. I get that. And I've coached there. I've played at a Division I school. And if you get that good opportunity, then do it. Then good for you, and typically what a good opportunity means, I think, is that you're getting a good scholarship offer. And I think that's like 50% or more, maybe a little bit lower, but I think it's a good scholarship offer. And usually what a good scholarship offer means is it means opportunity, and when you go into the fall and let's say you try to walk on to that Division I school and you struggle for 1 or 2 weeks, you're probably going to be done, but if you're on scholarship and if you struggle for a couple of weeks, you're still going to get another opportunity. Why? It's not necessarily because you're on money. It's because of the fact that they put you on money, which means that they believe in you and they see something. You have a tool. You have something that they think can help you, and you're going to get a few more opportunities. Now, ultimately, if you keep failing at those opportunities, someone's going to pass you by. But if you get a really good scholarship opportunity to go to a Division I, it's going to be hard to turn it down. But if you're not getting that opportunity, there is a lot of other good opportunities to go somewhere where we have a good chance to play. And I would think that most of us want an opportunity to play this game. We don't want to go somewhere and just sit on the bench for 2 or 3 years, so there's a lot of opportunities, Division II, Division III, NAIA, junior college, and there could be a right fit for just about anybody out there that truly, truly wants it.
That's great advice, Matt. I appreciate that. But one of the reasons why I'm doing these podcasts is showing parents and players all of the opportunities out there. Right, there's 1,700 baseball programs across the country, and that's pretty daunting. And most of the interviews that I do, if you're not in those areas or you're not being recruited by them, nobody knows who they are. And that's what I'm so encouraged and excited about doing, is help promoting these programs. Hearing about this, guys, if you want to get a hold of Matt Hollod, why don't you, Matt, share what's the best way of getting in touch with you? What's the best way of players reaching out if they are interested in looking at your school, finding more about your camps, and maybe places that you guys go to kind of find players?
Yeah, so first, if you're very interested, first you go to the website, right? And you do some research on our program, on the university. If you're really interested in NNU after doing research, come to one of our camps, and see it. And at our camps, you're going to get a tour of the campus. You'll meet with some people in admissions, and you'll get to meet the people on staff, the coaches, some players. But also if you're just, you're not coming to a camp, we usually recruit. We've gone a few different places, but we'll go to Arizona, California, Washington, Idaho, Oregon, the West regions. But sending us a video is probably the best that you can do. Send us an email, a personalized email, something that shows us something that you're very interested in, not just comes from one of these recruiting services that they spit out hundreds of emails a day. I think it means something when it comes from a kid, from him. Also, it comes from him and not his parent, and it comes from the kid and shows that he's really interested. Video is helpful. Even with video, we want to try to see everybody, but we can see something on video that maybe gets our attention, and then we'd be like, okay, we need to go see this kid. So video and email is a good step in the right direction. If you send us an email with no video, we're going to ask for video because we need to see you. And then we want to try to see you in person. Now, we're a Division II school. We do everything we can to have a good budget to be able to help us recruit and travel where we want, but we simply can't get out and see every kid, so we do our best of seeing the local guys that we hear about and want to see, and then we do our best to try to see the guys that are outside of the state in the surrounding areas. And the one fortunate thing with me is I've been coaching, in so many different areas in my career where, even if it's a kid coming from the East Coast, I mean, I can call, a couple of guys that I know out East and that a lot of times, the connections that we make calls with the connections that we have to hear about kids and get information on kids, but I think to start the process, an email with a video is probably the best way. And if you're really, really interested in NNU, you come to a camp or any school for that matter, whatever school that you're interested in.
That's awesome. Coach, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for spending the afternoon with me, and great to hear about NNU. I think the logo is worth checking out anyway, guys. You get it looks cool, and kudos to your head coach for putting that thing together. Matt, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for doing this.
No problem.